intend to fight for Black Lives Matters. I intend to fight.
If Black Lives matter to her, why didn't I matter?
I don't agree what Kamala Harris did to my mom. And I don't agree with what she's done to other parents as well.
My message to all Americans, especially Black Americans, do not trust Kamala Harris.
I'm so proud of you right now because you walked all the way down here and I wasn't expecting you to walk.
My daughter, Shayla, suffers from sickle cell anemia, a chronic, painful genetic disease.
As a prosecutor and law enforcement, I have a huge stick.
It's a very sharp stabbing pain and it hurts a whole lot. Like from my chest all the way down, it hurts, including my side.
So I decided I was going to start prosecuting parents for truancy.
When Kamala Harris was the California Attorney General, she had me arrested and prosecuted because my handicapped daughter was sick in the hospital and had missed some days of school.
I spent a majority of my time here at the hospital.
Kamala's horrible policies hurt mothers like me and the Black community. My name is Sheree Peoples, and this is my story. I am a single mother. I've worked as a certified nursing assistant and a caregiver. My daughter Shayla was born in 2002. When she was born, she was diagnosed with sickle cell anemia. It affects all major organs in the body and also causes extreme pain. Her whole life, she has been on medications like morphine and Dilaudid to help her control the pain. In addition, she had to undergo blood transfusions every 3 weeks. My lifestyle became taking care of her almost full time. It is pretty typical for kids with Shayla disability to miss a lot of school.
I just got out of school. I've done 3 full days this week. Oh, I'm so tired.
And for years, the teachers were aware of her condition and her absences were all excused. California schools get their state and federal funding based off of average daily attendance. Schools are paid about $30 per student per day.
In San Francisco, we threatened the parents of truants with prosecution.
I first heard of Kamala Harris when she got elected California Attorney General.
We are putting parents on notice. We are going to make sure that you face the full force and consequences of the law.
She wrote a report saying truancy was costing California schools $1.4 billion a year in funding.
Because of truancy, California public schools lose $1.4 billion a year in funding. I want money.
Kamala then wrote a law making it criminal for parents if their kids miss school time. Kamala even wrote a book called Smart on Crime.
You can read an excerpt from the book that she just plugged shamelessly. It's called Smart on Crime.
Talking about arresting parents for truancy.
I sent a letter on my letterhead out to every parent in the public school system.
In 2012, like all California parents, I received a threatening letter from Kamala Harris saying we'll go to jail for a year if our kids even miss 10% of school days. It was like a crazy intimidation tactic.
I'm going to start prosecuting parents for truancy.
I thought, wow, this woman doesn't have any empathy. Is it because she's not a mother? I also thought, how could she not understand it would disproportionately affect people of color, single Black mothers? But honestly, I didn't imagine it could affect me. Her teachers had her medical records from the Children's Hospital. I even had a 504 plan, which was an agreement between the school district and the parents to provide care for students with disabilities. It was April 18th, 2013, in the morning. I'm in my pajamas. I had just fed my daughter, gave her her medications, sent her off to school. Little did I know, there was a warrant out for my arrest. All of a sudden, the police is outside my house, and they started banging on the door. I opened up my door, and 2 officers entered my home. They told me I was under arrest for my child missing school. They said I was going to jail. I was shocked. I said, but my baby is sick. The school knows that. And they said, go talk to Kamala Harris. Place your hands behind your back.
My mom did nothing wrong. We did everything we were supposed to. I was always bringing doctor's notes, always calling the school to let them know that I was in the hospital.
Then they handcuff me. So they take me outside for what you call a perp walk. And oh my God, the TV news was there. The newspapers were there. You could swear I had killed somebody. It was degrading and humiliating. I was taken to the Criminal Justice Center. They took my mugshot. I was fingerprinted like a criminal, and I was terrified.
And it felt like I caused her so much pain because in reality, it is because of me, even though I know it's not directly my fault. Sorry.
The next day, the Orange County Register showed the pictures of my arrest. They even had a close-up picture of my hands in handcuffs to show here's a Black mother being arrested.
It was a truancy rate at over 2.5 times that of white students.
Everyone knew most truant kids were Black. I think Kamala Harris wanted me as an example to threaten other single Black mothers, like, this can happen to you if you don't get your kids in class. The police even put out a press release naming me and other Black single mothers like Toya Daniels, who got arrested the same day. But my hell was just beginning. They gave me 2 charges: failure to supervise and encourage school attendance, and contributing to the delinquency of a minor. I couldn't believe it. They framed my daughter as a gang member and basically charged me with neglect. I spent the next 2 years in court fighting these charges. Kamala assigned her nastiest prosecutors to my case.
My homicide prosecutors, my gang prosecutors. And they went over there and I said, when you go over there, look really mean.
Like 10 different prosecutors. They kept pressuring me to plead guilty and spend a year in jail, but I kept refusing because I did nothing wrong. All the time I had to spend going to court, I was struggling to care for my Shayla. I lost my job and couldn't pay rent, and we got evicted. I became homeless. We had to move into a motel.
And I ended up being in the hospital a lot during her trial. And in that hospital stay was when I had my stroke.
I had a stroke about 4 or 5 days ago, and right now I'm doing pretty good for my.
Okay, yeah.
Appeal will win. There are so many holes in that case, so I don't think Trump will ever do one single day in jail.
So, Megan, if we look at the 5 cases, 6 months from now, or a year from now, let's assume all 5 of them go to trial. He's guilty of 3 so far.
Wait, what do you mean he's guilty of 3 so far?
Well, he's been convicted of 3. Sorry.
What do you mean? No, he hasn't.
I love this. Eugene Carroll was guilty.
That was not a conviction. That was a civil case.
Okay, well, yes, so that's what I'm talking about. So that
okay, but there's a big difference.
It's still he was convicted. He was guilty of that. He got a settlement.
And I want to stop it just to say, Megyn Kelly is a fox, man. And I'm not a big fan of white women as far as seeing who's sexy and all of that. I'm just keeping it a buck. I'm from an area where if you don't like anything chocolate, you're wrong. You know what I mean? If you don't like anything Black, you're wrong. So I get it, guys. I get it. My eyes are open now. But Megyn Kelly, she's something. She is something. But watch how she tears him up, because most people on the left believe that Trump is a criminal. Trump is a felon. He can't vote because he's a felon, not realizing that the left did all of this to him so that he couldn't be able to vote. This was a tactic of theirs. This was a strategy of theirs, not because he was guilty. And if you've seen E. Jean Carroll, how in the hell she get all of that money? How in the hell she win that case? She didn't have any, I don't get that. Thank you so much for the super chat, big dog. I appreciate it. Christy, thank you. It says, thanks, Van from Australia. I got fans in Australia, man. Y'all better stop playing with me. Keep up the excellent job. I will try. All right, let's go. I'm not going to interrupt this anymore. Let's go, Megyn Kelly. She's about to give
Yeah,
it
but
to
it's
her.
guilty of that. We got a settlement. In the Trump organization, they're guilty there.
That,
okay,
again,
in the
was still
CFO.
civil, libel.
Yes, of course. But these are the cases we're talking about. And in the third one,
she's a lawyer, right?
Yeah, of course. And in the third one, I'm just talking about the 5 cases. Yes, some are civil, obviously, and some are not. Some are criminal. But if we look
You
at all
said
5
3
cases,
convictions. Now you're walking it back.
I'm not walking it back. There's
Get it
3 in
straight.
which he was.
You should walk it back.
You walk
I'm
it back.
so glad Megyn is here.
Of the 5,
to
3 of them,
dispel
he's either guilty or
You got a bad result.
Yeah, got a bad result. There are 2 more. If he is found guilty of those 2 more, Megyn, and 5 of 5, he had a bad result. Way to frame it. Will you chalk all 5 up in your mind to 5 different jurisdictions, 5 different prosecutors, 5 different juries and or judges, all conspiring to get him?
100%.
Okay.
Yes.
That's all I wanted to hear your answer to. 5 of 5, 5 different jurisdictions. You think it's all
E. Jean
lawfare?
Carroll, they changed the law so that she could bring a civil lawsuit
No
against him,
problem.
and she did. New York went 87% for Joe Biden. That fix was in right from the start. The fraud trial that Letitia James brought against him has never been brought. There's no victims. The banks who were involved said, we didn't lose a penny. What are we doing here? We weren't damaged. Nobody was complaining except Tish James, who ran for office saying, I will get him. Then you have Alvin Bragg, who's a George Soros-funded prosecutor who doesn't like to prosecute any crime in New York City, where I lived for 17 years, except if your name is Donald Trump. Let's go down to Georgia, where Fani Willis and Nathan Wade couldn't keep their libidos in check long enough to actually bring this case against Donald Trump. It's a repeat of what was happening in January 6th up in the case with Judge Chutkan, who loathes Trump and has sentenced almost every J6 defendant to way more jail time than their counterparts would get. Those are falling apart because of presidential immunity, which was handed down by the Supreme Court, who said you cannot bring a criminal case against a sitting president for any official act. Those cases have been gutted. Also, a Supreme Court ruling saying the same on January 6 defendants in general. And that leaves us with Florida and the documents. And Trump has torn that apart because Jack Smith wasn't properly appointed and isn't the right counsel. But there are other issues. They haven't even gotten to presidential immunity there. And so that one's going nowhere as well. And by the way, they're going to appeal it up to the 11th Circuit. She just threw it out. The 11th Circuit is conservative, and thank God so is the current Supreme Court. They're not going to tolerate that nonsense.
Let me ask you about.
You in as a friend. Michael Jackson, Janet Jackson's big brother, the main Jackson, was good friends with Donald J. Trump. Let me show you this right here. So a lot of people ain't gonna show you this, but I'm gonna show you this right here. This is Donald Trump walking and talking and spending time with Michael Jackson, Janet Jackson's brother. Now, this was before he even thought about running for office. This was before he even had a conversation with the fat Oprah Winfrey when he told her about the country and the things that he would do. And she suggested that maybe you should consider running for president. He wasn't even thinking about it. So just because you're born with a silver spoon in your mouth, you still have to do some things in order to make your own name great. And that's what he did. And now he's positioned himself. He became president before. And if you look at the numbers, everyone's saying that his presidency was extremely successful. Extremely successful. Now, if you're on the left, you're saying it was only successful because of Obama. He took in because some of the numbers were looking great for him because of some things that Obama did. Whether that's true or not, there was no wars during Donald J. Trump's presidency. The border was more in control under Donald Trump than it was under Obama, and definitely than it was under Biden. It's like they opened it up because we need new voters. That's what they said. We need new voters. And if you're not going to come in the border, guess what we're going to do? We're going to fly you out. We're going to make sure that wherever you are, we're going to fly you into the United States And when you show up, we're going to treat you like royalty. And guess what? If you commit a crime, we're not going to charge you for it. Not nearly the way that we charge these Americans who already pay taxes, who are already citizens, who are already contributing to this country. We're not going to charge you, the illegal immigrants, the same way we would Americans. This is the administration that we're up against. So make sure you consider that when you go to the polls. That's all I wanted to present to you guys today. Again, guys, I apologize that I'm not all up bubbly like I used.
As is the gentle lady from Georgia, Ms. Taylor Greene.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman, and welcome to the Oversight Committee, where we focused on waste, fraud, and abuse, not the campaign trail. This hearing is called A Legacy of Incompetence, Consequences of the Biden-Harris Administration's Policy Failures. Policies that do not deliver results for the American people, who are the taxpayers, are complete failures. Spending money and allocating money is not a policy of success. It's the outcome of the money that has been spent based on the policy. So I'd like to talk through this one that I find absolutely shocking, especially given that my district is a rural district in Georgia. This is in 2021. President Biden taps Kamala Harris to lead effort to close digital divide. The White House released their remarks by President Biden, an address to a joint session of Congress. And in the process, it will create thousands and thousands of good-paying jobs. It creates jobs connecting every American with high-speed internet, including 35% of the rural America that still doesn't have it. This is going to help our kids and our businesses succeed in the 21st century economy. And I'm asking the Vice President to lead this effort, if she would. Vice President replied, "Of course." The President said, "Because I know it will get done." Now, fast forward to 2024. Here's the headlines. Why has Joe Biden's $42 billion broadband program not connected one single household? Maybe it's because, this is also in the headlines, that Harris announces plans to help 80% of Africa gain access to the internet, up from 40% now. Talk about a policy failure. Talk about not delivering results to the American people. Spending $42 billion, yet not having one household connected to the internet. Mr. Carr, is that actually true? Not one home got internet?
That's correct. In Georgia alone, there's about 257,000 homes and businesses that lack internet today. So that's potentially millions of people that were supposed to be connected through this program. $42 billion was enough money to actually end the digital divide in this country with competent implementation. Unfortunately, we have not cleared that hurdle. We have stories out right now that describe the implementation as chaotic, dysfunction, delays, no guidance, finger-pointing, messy, delayed rollout. That's just not getting the job done.
That's right, Mr. Carr, and many of those homes and businesses are actually in my district, and they're outraged. You know, we're over $35 trillion in debt. Biden-Harris administration has been in charge for nearly 4 years, but not one home and business has gotten internet. It's outrageous. This is so concerning to me. How can the woman, Kamala Harris, that is telling the country right now she wants to be president of the United States, actually ask for this job if she has not been able to deliver what the president assigned her to do, which was to take that $42 billion and provide internet to the American people? I find that hard to believe because I own a construction company, and when we get hired to do a job, guess what? We deliver it. Let me ask you a question. Under the Trump administration, in 2020, the FCC awarded Starlink $885 million to serve 642,925 homes and businesses that lacked internet. What happened to that program?
Well, last year, after President Biden went to the White House podium and said that Elon Musk is worth being looked into, the FCC abruptly reversed course and yanked back that award. And now in other programs, the ones that are actually connecting people under this administration, we're spending dollars on the penalties. Senator Cruz recently had a report showing that in some cases we're spending $100,000 per home for broadband, when with that Starlink deal, it was $1,300. I don't think there's any way to explain the FCC's decision other than to go back to Joe Biden giving the green light to agencies to go after them.
So what has happened in the process of $42 billion being allocated for Americans to get internet? Why has that not been able, why can't Kamala Harris deliver those results?
Look, after 1,039 days and no Americans being connected, what they've been doing so far is advancing a wish list of progressive policy goals. They've been pushing for DEI requirements, climate change agenda, preferences for government-run networks, rather than just focusing on getting people connected.
You know, thank you very much, Mr. Carr. That's exactly what the American people are so fed up with, is so-called policies that actually never deliver results for the American people. I yield, Mr. Chairman.
You brought up some claims about Kamala Harris. So I want to finish that discussion. She said she didn't favor a ban on fracking now. The reality is she was one of the strongest proponents of that ban, so much so that when she was in California, she sued the Obama administration over granting fracking permits. She didn't just favor the abolition of private health insurance. She was a co-sponsor of the bill with Bernie Sanders as a U.S. Senator for Medicare for All for Americans. The reality is, when you think about the Green New Deal, she was the chief proponent, not just as a co-sponsor of the legislation, but going further and saying she would end the filibuster in the Senate to ram that through. So the reality is she can say what she wants to say now. Those are actions she has taken. Is someone allowed to evolve? Of course they are. But she deserves to explain exactly why she's changed those positions, exactly what her position is. If it's not a ban on fracking, what exactly is it? What exactly is her health care plan if she no longer favors abolishing private health insurance, which just 4 short years ago when she ran for president, she did? And that's the kind of scrutiny that's been missing. I think Donald Trump has received plenty of scrutiny, and I give credit to him for sitting for hostile interviews that Kamala Harris has not.
There's a moment where you had some hesitation about Epstein, releasing some of the documents on Epstein. Why the hesitation?
I don't think I mean, I'm not involved. I never went to his island, fortunately. But a lot of people did.
Why do you think so many smart, powerful people allowed him to get so close?
He was a good salesman. He was, was a hale and hearty type of guy. He had some nice assets that he'd throw around, like islands. But a lot of big people went to that island. But fortunately, I was not one of them.
It's just very strange for a lot of people that the list of clients that went to the island has not been made public.
Yeah, it's very interesting, isn't it? Probably will be, by the way. Probably.
So if you're able to, you'll be...
Yeah, I'd certainly take a look at it. Now, Kennedy's interesting because it's so many years ago. They do that for danger, too, because, endangers certain people, et cetera, et cetera. So Kennedy is very different from the Epstein thing. But, yeah, I'd be inclined to do the Epstein. I'd have no problem with it.
That's great to hear.
Wow. Guys, this is scary stuff because
Law, the Civil Rights Act of 1964. Its purpose is national, not regional. Its purpose is to promote a more abiding commitment to freedom, a more
outcome of the US presidential election will have massive implications for America and for the world. The candidates could not be further divided on issues like immigration, the economy, and the role America should play in restoring peace. Make no mistake, this election is transformatively significant. It might be one of the most significant, in fact, in our lifetimes. But it's not existential. Kamala Harris is not an actual communist.
Yeah,
Donald
right.
Trump is not an actual fascist.
Well, her policies are communist. She may not call herself a communist, but her policies are Marxist. And we've been talking about that for a while here on the show.
And no matter what happens in the next 4 months, a new president will be sworn into office in January next year. Just one day after a second attempt to assassinate Donald Trump, Hillary Clinton said this.
And I don't understand why it's so difficult for the press to have a consistent narrative about how dangerous Trump is. The late, great journalist, Harry Evans, one time said that, journalists should, really try to achieve objectivity. And by that, he said, I mean, they should cover the object. Well, the object in this case is Donald Trump, his demagoguery, his danger to our country and the world, and stick with it.
Wow.
Well, that narrative is dubious, and the timing was appalling.
Absolutely.
The media can be accused of many ill deeds, but failing to have a consistent narrative about Donald Trump is not one of them. This montage has now been viewed more than 30 million times in the aftermath of the latest attempted shooting. Excuse the poor quality, but the point is obvious.
I just don't even know why there aren't uprisings all over the country. Maybe there will be.
People need to start taking to the streets. This is a dictator.
There needs to be unrest in the streets for as long as there's unrest in our lives.
Enemies of the state.
Show me where it says that protests are supposed to be polite and peaceful.
Do something about your dad's immigration practices, you feckless.
When they go low, we kick.
How do you resist the temptation to run up and wring her neck?
The biggest terror threat in this country is white men, most of them radicalized to the right.
Well, the full version goes on and on and on. Of course, it's not difficult to find examples of Donald Trump saying outrageous things too. But there's no real that.
No. And I'm going to stop it right there really quickly. Donald Trump says certain things, but he doesn't say stuff like that. A lot of times he does it in a jokingly way. He will say things to different people who push back against him or say stuff against him. But the stuff that the leftists have been saying about him for years, he's never said anything like that. I want to now
value me highlighting them because they play on the biggest TV news shows all day, every day. You will have already seen them. Everybody has. And right now, it's Democrats pushing the narrative that Trump and only Trump is to blame for the simmering and, in some cases, exploding tensions in American politics. Those tensions have almost got him killed, not once, but twice in just 2 months. Surely enough is now enough.